A palace can cost enough to feed an entire nation for a year. Another hides within it souls sealed away for 600 years. This is not a fairy tale. This is the real world where power is forged from gold and dreams. The total value of the buildings in this video exceeds $142 billion. Join me as we explore the 10 most expensive and outstanding palaces on the planet to understand that wealth here is not just material, but the legacy of those who once controlled the fate of a nation. Versailles, the palace that used mirrors instead of swords, the weapon of the Sun King. In the heart of France, where morning mist drifts through perfectly manicured gardens, stands a symbol of power that needs no swords, Versailles. Here, the light from hundreds of mirrors not only reflects opulence but also illuminates the ambitions of a king who sought to turn an entire nation into his personal stage. This is not just a palace, it is an invisible weapon, where power is displayed in absolute splendor. Versailles was once just a small hunting lodge in the forest. But Louis XIV, with an ego larger than any throne, turned it into a sanctuary of absolute power. When he moved his entire court from Paris to Versailles in 1682, he wasn't just building a palace, he was constructing a gilded trap. The nobility were forced to live close to the king, competing for his favor with every glance, rather than plotting rebellion in secret as they had before. Every stone and every mirror in the legendary 73-meter-long Hall of Mirrors had a purpose. In the 17th century, a large mirror was worth as much as a warship. And Louis XIV filled the hallway with 357 mirrors, not to admire himself, but so that foreign envoys would see themselves dwarfed by the French light. By today's standards, if Elon Musk were to buy 357 Teslas to line the floor of his office, that would be the modern-day equivalent of Versailles. But Versailles was not just about light. It was also about ritual and control through performance. The king did not just rule, he performed. Every morning, Louis XIV was awakened in front of dozens of nobles in a ceremony called lever. Every movement, getting dressed, combing his hair, eating, was part of a script that reinforced his divine right to rule. Meanwhile, outside the palace gates, thousands of peasants were dying of starvation due to crop failures. A single banquet at Versailles could have fed an entire village for a year. When the common people could no longer endure poverty, and the golden halls continued to echo with the sounds of revolutionary dance, revolution was inevitable. Versailles, once a symbol of supreme power, became the final prison of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette before they were led to the guillotine. The light from the mirrors could no longer hide the starving masses outside. And that was the tragedy of Versailles. A great symbol of power was also its greatest flaw. If one word could sum up power, would it be Versailles? Leave your answer in the comments below. But not all dynasties need glitz and glamour to survive. There is another palace, more discreet, more steadfast, and therefore able to survive for centuries. Buckingham Palace, the living heart of the world's oldest monarchy. In London, amidst modern buildings, a sprawling subway system, and iconic black taxis, there is a place that never sleeps, not because it is noisy, but because it carries the breath of an entire monarchy. That place is Buckingham Palace, the official residence of King Charles II and the center of power for the Windsor dynasty, which has existed for over 1,000 years if counting from the Anglo-Saxon lineage to the present day. However, this palace was not always a royal symbol. Originally, it was a noble mansion built in 1703 for the Duke of Buckingham. It was not until 1761 that King George II purchased it as a private residence for Queen Charlotte. Over the years, brick by brick, it was expanded through successive generations until Queen Victoria designated it as the official residence of the British royal family in 1837. Today, Buckingham Palace has 775 rooms, including 19 staterooms, 92 offices, and a private post office. But don't let the numbers fool you. What makes this palace priceless is not its size or number of rooms, but what it has witnessed. From the wedding of Diana and Charles to the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, from the coronations of many kings to the moments when the whole world watched the East Balcony, where the royal family appeared before their subjects during important moments, this is the historical stage of England. Meanwhile, on the other side of the palace gates, Londoners struggle with sky-high housing prices, exorbitant utility bills, and crowded trains during rush hour. A one-bedroom apartment near Buckingham Palace can cost up to GBP 2,500 a month, while the entire palace, spanning 77,000 square meters, remains intact for a royal family, with all operational costs covered by taxpayers. But the wealth here isn't as opulent as Versailles. Buckingham is power. It is a carefully crafted image over centuries of a calm, stable, and respectable monarchy. When King Charles appears in his gray suit and tennis racket, he is not just a king. He is the father of the nation to 67 million people and the symbolic head of state of 56 countries in the Commonwealth. With an estimated value of around $2 billion, Buckingham Palace is not the most expensive palace. But it is where the heart of England beats and the world listens. However, times have changed, and power today no longer lies in bloodlines or rituals, but in balance sheets and skyscrapers. Antilia, the sky palace of billionaire Mukesh Ambani. Antilia was built from stocks, oil, and the boundless ambition of one man, Mukesh Ambani, India's richest man, chairman of Reliance Industries, and a living symbol of the new billionaire class reshaping the global social order. Standing 27 stories tall and spanning 400,000 square feet, Antilia rises skyward in the heart of Mumbai, one of the world's most populous and polluted cities. It is not a house but a kingdom standing tall. People call it the palace in the sky, but in reality it is a private universe for a single family, completely isolated from the world below. Inside, there is no throne, but there is a snow room that produces real snowflakes in the middle of a 40°C summer. There is no ceremonial stage, but there is a private 50-seat cinema, soundproofed to perfection, so that no one outside can hear laughter or tears. There are 6 underground parking levels with space for 168 supercars, 3 helipads on the roof to avoid traffic jams below, and rooms so opulent that no 2 floors are alike. Each space is a distinct architectural world. From marble and crystal to mother of pearl, every material is selected according to the most expensive standards. Unlike traditional royal palaces built to represent a nation, Antilia was constructed solely to serve a single family. However, what makes Antilia controversial is not just its opulence, but its location on land that once belonged to an Islamic orphanage. The 2002 land deal, which cost just $2 million, sparked a decade-long wave of lawsuits and outrage. While millions of Mumbai residents live in nearby slums without clean water or stable electricity, the lights inside Antilia never go out. The question arises, what does Antilia represent? Is it a symbol of modern Indian success? Or is it a glass and steel Tower of Babel, where the ultra-rich crown themselves kings while the masses below continue to languish in their quest for a better life? For many, Antilia is clear evidence of horrific inequality. A billionaire can create an artificial winter while hundreds of thousands sleep on the streets under the scorching heat. Mukesh Ambani does not have royal blood, but he does not need it. He doesn't need a throne, because he owns the oil distribution, telecommunications, e-commerce, and media systems of a country with over 1.4 billion people. Antilia, literally, is the castle of a man who doesn't rule by law but by internet connections, phone bills, and financial power. But not all opulent buildings are symbols of individual power. In some places, power and faith merge, creating palaces that are both homes and holy sites. Istana Nurul Iman, when oil turned faith into the largest palace on earth. In a small, humble corner of Southeast Asia, home to less than 500,000 people, stands a palace so vast it could swallow Versailles and the Vatican if placed side by side. It is rarely mentioned in travel magazines and seldom appears on lists of places to visit once in a lifetime. But that is because Istana Nurul Iman, the world's largest palace, is not for ordinary people. Built in 1984, just as Brunei regained independence from Britain, Istana Nurul Iman is a powerful statement by Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah, the king who is also prime minister, defense minister, and spiritual leader of the nation. A man who holds all the power in a country so rich in oil that it hardly needs to tax its citizens. And with that power, he built a palace that even European kings and Dubai billionaires would envy. Istana Nurul Iman features 1,788 rooms, 257 bathrooms, 564 chandeliers, 51,000 light bulbs, 110 garages for supercars, a banquet hall that can accommodate 5,000 guests, and a temperature-controlled stable for 200 polo horses, all to serve the Sultan's personal interests. Istana Nurul Iman is where the Sultan connects with God. The palace's name means Palace of the Light of Faith. Inside, there is a private mosque that can accommodate up to 1,500 worshippers, decked with gold-plated domes visible from across the capital city of Bandar Seri Begawan. Here, royalty and religion are not two parallel entities, but one. Oil built the palace, but faith made it sacred. And it is this sacredness that creates a sanctuary where ostentation becomes reasonable and questions are obscured by the halo of religious power. Compared to Mukesh Ambani's Antilia, which embodies personalized power, the Istana Nurul Iman is a manifestation of modern absolute monarchy, where the leader is both king and spiritual guide. In a world where most royalty have become ceremonial symbols, the Sultan of Brunei remains a true king, living in a palace no one dares to replicate. When night falls, 51,000 lights shine brightly from the Golden Dome, reflecting on the peaceful Brunei River, reminding the world that oil can buy a kingdom if those who hold it believe they have been chosen by God. If Istana is a golden dream in the tropical jungle, then the next palace is a symbol of rebirth after hell. No gold or silver was needed. It was built from the ashes of war and national memories. Tokyo Imperial Palace, where time was bombed and reborn from the ashes. Located in the heart of the world's most populous capital, where every square meter of land could buy an apartment in Paris, the Japanese Imperial Palace stands as quiet as a giant Zen monastery. Few know that this land was once scorched by American firebombs in 1945, reduced to ruins. But like the nation itself, the palace did not die. It was reborn. Not with gold or marble, but with philosophy. Previously, this was Edo Castle, the central fortress of the Tokugawa shogunate, which ruled Japan for 260 years. But after the Meiji Restoration, it became the new residence of the imperial family, marking the end of the samurai era and the beginning of modernization. But modernity could not withstand war. On the night of May 25, 1945, a fierce air raid by 500 B-29s turned much of Tokyo into a sea of fire. The Imperial Palace was not spared. What once represented sacredness, tradition, and stability collapsed into dust. But strangely, no one here flaunts their wealth. There are no snow rooms, no lavish parties, no gold mirrors, no private airports. Meanwhile, Tokyo residents today struggle with apartments that are only 10 square meters wide and rent for exorbitant prices. They crowd onto trains, work 12 hours a day, and live next to a palace where only one family is allowed to live, on a plot of land covering more than 1.15 km2. Here, Emperor Naruhito is not a ruling monarch, but a symbol. He drives a hybrid car, lives a simple life, and rarely makes political statements. But every time he steps out in public, he represents what the Japanese call Kokoro the heart of the nation. The palace does not need to be gilded. It has been forged by fire, war, and the collective memory of an indomitable nation. Comment Tokyo if you want to visit once in your lifetime. But nowhere else makes one feel the heavy power of stone like the Forbidden City. A palace that not only holds gold and silver, but also the souls imprisoned in the bloody history of the Eastern Empire. Forbidden City, $70 billion in souls imprisoned in stone. In the heart of modern Beijing, where trams glide smoothly and tech giants dominate the world, there is a place where time seems to stand still. A place that once was the heart of an empire that ruled over a quarter of humanity and now lies motionless, majestic, like a sleeping dragon. That is the Forbidden City, the most expensive palace in the world, valued at $70 billion. Think Versailles is opulent. Imagine a complex with 9,999 rooms spread across 72 hectares, where every square meter of land is worth $27,000. The land alone is worth nearly $20 billion, but the real treasure lies within, with over $50 billion worth of artifacts, from jade and gold statues to priceless ancient paintings, all carefully guarded as if the souls of the emperors still reside there. Since 1420, this place has been the stage for 24 emperors, where a single word could cost 100 lives, and a single glance could change the fate of the entire nation. Every stone paving the courtyard, every lacquered wooden pillar, every golden tile glistening under the sun embodies absolute power, sanctified by the gods, and cursed by the blood of countless concubines, eunuchs, and officials caught up in political intrigue. It is said that the souls of the past still wander the echoing corridors, haunted by the sound of ceremonial drums. Places that once forbade all commoners, with the warning "enter at your own risk," now welcome more than 19 million tourists each year. But whether foreign or Chinese, anyone who steps inside feels a kind of oppressive energy that is both sacred and cold. Ironically, just a few kilometers away, millions of Beijing residents live in cramped apartments, many renting rooms less than 10 square meters to live, eat, and sleep. Meanwhile, a single ceremonial room in the Forbidden City is larger than a luxury apartment and was built solely for the emperor to change his clothes. And today, who holds the keys to this legacy? No one other than Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China. He does not live in the Forbidden City, but every time he has appeared there recently, he has brought with him a message: the past is not dead. It is the foundation of present power. The grand visits and speeches with the golden roof tiles as a backdrop all show that Xi Jinping has inherited the cultural throne of previous emperors and turned history into a tool to consolidate China's global position. The Forbidden City is no longer a palace. It is a spiritual castle, a museum of absolute power. It is a place where stones not only remain silent, but also whisper the bloody secrets of 600 years of empire. And if the Forbidden City is where power is turned to stone, then the Winter Palace is where power is overthrown. A palace that was once untouchable became the center of revolution, blood, and the beginning of a new era. Winter Palace, where the Russian throne was overthrown by the Red Revolution. Some palaces are built to shine, some are built to rule. But the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, once the heart of the Russian Empire, is one of the few palaces in the world to have been overthrown by its own people. For nearly 2 centuries, this was the residence of the Romanov Tsars, who were once regarded as the sons of God of the North. The Tsars were not just kings. They were living gods, rulers of an empire that stretched from Europe to Siberia. And the Winter Palace, with its 1,500 rooms, gold-leafed corridors, and ceilings painted by Europe's greatest artists, was not just a home, it was a symbol of the Russian throne's inviolability. But it was this very opulence that sowed the seeds of rebellion. While the Tsar lived amidst Italian marble, French crystal, and Spanish wine, Russian peasants starved on frozen fields. This divide could not last forever. and it ended on a fateful night. In October 1917, a revolutionary mob led by Lenin stormed the Winter Palace in a legendary attack etched into world history. The chandeliers still shone. The paintings by Rembrandt, Rubens, and Leonardo still hung on the walls. But now, instead of the sound of noble violins, there were the shouts of workers in overalls and rifles. The throne collapsed. A dynasty was wiped out in blood, ushering in a completely different era, the Soviet Union's Red Era. From a place that once honored the divine power of the Tsars, it became the Hermitage Museum, housing over 3 million works of art, and a testament to an empire that once shone brightly and then collapsed. The bitter irony is that the revolutionaries who once despised the opulence of this place ultimately preserved it. For no one can deny the terrifying beauty of power, even when it has been defeated. Today, tourists from around the world come here and stand in silence in the throne room. They do not see blood, only mirrors, crystal, cold marble. And a silent question echoes in their minds: is there any palace that will never be overthrown? But not all palaces were built to rule. There is a place created only to dream of a world without war, without politics, only music and legends. Leave a comment: which palace would you most like to visit? If you found this journey interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video so more people can discover these magnificent structures. And we'll see you on the next journey where power and architecture continue to collide.